Now I know you're here right now because you want to see how you can set up 7 interruptions with Tellarknights in 2023. And I also know you're here right now because you just want to abuse one of the most ridiculous not once per turn special summon effects in the game. And we're going to get to all that, but before we do, I just got to ask you guys to take a look at something for me. Can you look at this? I mean, when I see something like this, the first thing I do is I say, would you look at that? That's right, we are just 7 subscribers away from that 500 mark, and I feel like I've been chasing it for an eternity, so if you want to help me out, make sure you hit that button down below. Thank you. Alright, so to start this combo, all you're going to need is Sheraton and Lirin plus any other Tellarknight. Now, I say all you're going to need, but the Sheraton is a one of. There's not really any good things to search it. You could play more copies of it, I suppose, and it's probably not the worst thing, but it does become a little bit of a brick of a normal summon just because all of your other Tellarknights tend to just interact with Tellarknights apart from the new ones. And so I play the 1 Sheraton and the 2 Caduceus. You can make whatever decision you want. For the most part, you're always going to have something in your hand that can lead to Appaloosa plus F-Zero. That's been super reliable for me. But if you were to draw the Sheraton, the Lirin, and a spare Tellarknight, you can go F-Zero, Appaloosa, plus an IP, and then you can either steal their monster with your F-Zero when they try to activate an effect to have material for your SP, or you can just make the Appaloosa with 3 material and leave a body on board to make the SP. And either way, you'll get the effects from SP on summon, and then it's quick effect. So we'll start by normal summoning that Sheraton. This question came up over the past weekend, how these resolve because it's 2 separate effects. It's 2 different chains. So on normal summon, Sheraton's effect will activate, it'll create a chain. Lirin's effect, a special summon itself, will then activate and put it on the board. The Sheraton effect will resolve, giving us the Caduceus, and then the Lirin effect will create a separate chain in order to search our Tellarknight spell. Now throughout this combo, you have the opportunity to search every one of your in-archetype spells that we're playing, so for now we'll just grab the Sky Bridge. It doesn't matter if you don't grab this one right now, you can just grab it later. What does matter here though is that the Caduceus is going to activate in hand, we can special summon it, throw it in defense mode, and then on the field you can activate it on the field to search a spell, and we'll grab Twinkle here. We'll use the Twinkle on the Sheraton to bump it by 1 so that it's a level 4. The Sky Bridge is going to be annoying us all day today. And then we can go ahead and make our Caduceus. Or I'm going to use the Sheraton and the Caduceus on board in order to make the big Caduceus. On summon, it will let us get Constellar and Tellarknight, or one or the other, back to the hand from the graveyard. We'll grab our Twinkle. Now, it won't come up again in the combo if you are like me and cannot afford an SP Little Knight at the moment. I'm playing Nightmare Griffin. It works exactly the same way in the combo. The only problem is you need a discard, and you'll have plenty of cards in your hand, but this is a fine discard. Even if you end up needing it, you can just use its own effect to get it back, or if there's something more advantageous, you just discard that, because we'll end the board with plenty in the hand as well. We're then going to use the Caduceus' effect on the board. We're going to copy a Lirin so we get another search, and we'll detach the Caduceus specifically because it's a level 4, and we're going to summon it back here in a second. So we're going to grab our Constellar Tellarknights, we're going to go ahead and activate that, and then we're going to get our Caduceus back on activation. So leave the one in your hand. Definitely don't do that unless you got interrupted and need to play around something in particular. We need this in the hand for later. We're going to special summon our M7 with its own effect. It's got to be the best extra deck monster in the deck that never actually gets used for its own effect. We'll then use the Constellar Tellarknight's on-field effect to rank it down into a Deltaros, and Deltaros has got to be one of the most ridiculous non-once-per-turn effects in the game. I think at the time they just had no idea how this would be so abusable. So we'll use that Deltaros to pop itself, and then it'll special summon an Altair from our deck. The Altair is then going to special summon the Deltaros back to the field, so we can do it all again. Throw Deltaros on there, and Deltaros is going to go away once again real quick. So use the Deltaros, and then what you use here doesn't really matter. It can be either one. We get both effects here. So now, if they had a negate, they probably would have used it well before you got to this point. If they did not, and you're worried about it, you go Chainlink 1 Deltaros, Chainlink 2 Isold. and that way it chain blocks the Deltaros, so it's safe, because you need this special summon quite a bit. This search is just always going to be a follow-up for the next turn. So now for the search effect off Isold, I'm typically grabbing a Lyran just because it's nice to have in hand as a follow-up play on your next turn, because any other Tellarknight that you can normal summon means you get 2 bodies and another search on board, and you can activate the other Constellar Tellarknights as another monster reborn. But you could pick whatever you want here. Everything is once per turn, and we're going to use every effect other than the Sirius, I suppose, at some point, and so you can pick whichever one, and just as long as you already used it, it'll be fine. We'll grab the Lyran here, and then the Deltaros is going to summon one. We're going to summon a Nook. Ignore the one in your hand. It's not an Anook necessarily, it's any Tellarknight. We're going to put that Anook on board. Anook's effect is going to dump the Alteran. So now you can still run this whole combo even if you drew the Alteran, like if this blank Tellarknight is an Alteran. Here you would just dump something else, probably the Deneb, because you don't have a specific need for it throughout the combo. But if you were to draw this, you need it in the graveyard. So when we use the Isold, I'm going to grab the Living Fossil. We'll dump this for now and I'll explain here. So I'll use this effect for 1. So I would grab the Living Fossil if I did not draw it, because you're just going to dump it off the Anook. If you did draw it, you just grab the DDR and activate it to special the Lyran, and then discard the Alteran as the discard for DDR, and you're set up exactly the same way for the same combo. Ignore that Skybridge again, and Renaud is going to hit the board. Renaud is going to give us back that Living Fossil. So now right here, I'm going to make our first Xyz monster that's going to turn into an F-Zero. We'll overlay 2, it doesn't matter which 2. You're then going to use the effect to get back the Deltaros. So its effects on board is negated, doesn't matter. We're just going to cycle its effect in the graveyard for a 3rd time. And then here I'm also going to get the Alteran back on the field, throw him up there. So now, when this gets summoned, he would have had 2 pops if you had a board to play against. This is ideally going first, so you won't get that pop. He's just a body. But if you were to like save the Skybridge for your opponent's turn and then Skybridge something out, you would just be able to pop then, you know, whatever the case may be. So for now, we got to ignore it. We're not going to make Appaloosa. So right here, if you are not confident that they're going to summon a monster for you to steal, well, I suppose, I don't know of a deck other than maybe like Chain Burn that doesn't summon a monster. It doesn't try to use a monster effect that you can try to steal. But suppose there's something I'm just not thinking of and you don't have the choice. You can just make it a 3 material Appaloosa instead and just not worry about that. We are going to make it 4 because decks summon monsters. That's what happens. We're then going to get the effect of Deltaros to get us our Vega, and then Vega is going to go special summon. So Vega will special summon the blank one that you have here. So I suppose that's also worth noting. Don't add the same monster that you have in your hand that you need for the Vega summon, because the Isold will shut it off. So don't make that mistake, but we didn't, so we're good here. We'll ignore the Skybridge for now. Anook is going to hit the board. We already got the Anook effect. It doesn't matter anyway. So now here you can Skybridge if you so choose, as long as you're planning to use it for the next Xyz summon. So what you could do is Skybridge into either Sirius or Deneb. Sirius we wouldn't be able to use right now because at the moment we only have 1, 2, 3, 4 Tellarknights in the graveyard, so we wouldn't be able to shuffle it back. You could just make the IP first at that point if you wanted to do that shuffle and draw effect, or you can just Skybridge into a Deneb to get a search for an additional follow-up piece. And so remember, you get the Lyran effect when the monster normal summons and it doesn't chain block, so on the follow-up for the next turn, it might be worth having like a Vega or an Altera or something in hand that you can normal summon, get the special summon off of Lyran, get the search off of Lyran, and get the special summon off of like Vega or Altera on the field. And now you have 3 bodies. So if something went terribly wrong, you can just Triever to reset the board. You get your Constellar Tellarknights back in your hand to keep using that over and over. Or you can just hold the Skybridge until you pass turn. And then if you're leaving a body on board with a 3 material Appaloosa and your IP and your F-Zero, then you can just shuffle it back to get a special summon and then get the Alteran out of the graveyard. And you would get 1 pop at that point off of the F-Zero. For sake of demonstration, we'll just use the Skybridge. You can put back whichever one you want. We'll take the Deneb. So now, you have to remember, when you use the Skybridge, you cannot special summon monsters other than Tellarknight monsters, as long as the monster summoned off of Skybridge is on the field. So I have to use the Deneb to make this next summon, which doesn't matter. So we need just any Tellarknight monster at this point because of Skybridge. These are the only 2 2 material tellers that are in the extra deck right now. You could put in the Batlamius just for this combo if you wanted to. I don't know that it's worth it because it's such a low likelihood that you actually open this hand, and so in this instance, I would probably just use the Ptolemaeus, even though it's kind of a waste of the Ptolemaeus. You just don't, I mean, if you're setting up this board, you're probably in pretty good shape anyway. They're immediately going to get Xyz summoned into the original F-Zero, and then we'll make the Big Daddy F-Zero right there. So now to finish it up, we'll use our Living Fossil. You can get whatever you want back out of the graveyard, doesn't matter, it's immediately going to disappear, and we will make our IP. And so now this board, assuming your opponent summons a monster, remember, people get crazy. I don't know if they choose not to just because they know what you're going to do. I suppose you've effectively gotten the additional negation or interruption there anyway. But the Appaloosa has 4 materials. The F-Zero can detach to negate and steal, and then that steal puts the monster on board for you to use with your IP to make the SP and get the banish, and then your SP also would have that quick effect to banish for the remainder of the turn. So effectively, we have 7 interrupts off of a 2.5 card opening hand. Pretty nuts. If you end up using it, let me know. I want to know how it works for you. Remember what we talked about in the beginning of this video today. Subscribe for me, please. We're almost there. Happy deck building. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Goodbye.